This is going to be the most information dense video that I've ever made up to this point. I will be dropping all my knowledge that I have obtained in the past 5 years about fitness and bodybuilding all into one video. This will be a step-by-step of how I lost 30 pounds of fat while building muscle in under 170 days while working 3 jobs, and how I've completely changed my physique using the aesthetics blueprint. So by the end of the video, you will have an actionable blueprint that you can follow for the next 180 days to build an aesthetic physique. And I truly think that this video will change your life if you actually apply the information that's in the video. So I'm so fucking hyped. Let's get into it. So I'm here to help men who are fat, bulky, or in my case, skinny fat, to shred at least 25 pounds of fat, build muscle, and finally look and feel aesthetic in 180 days or less using the aesthetics blueprint. Without 2-hour workouts, without eating like a rabbit, and without turning your life into a miserable prep. As you can tell by the vibe here, this is built for men who actually have a life, maybe have a business, a job, maybe a family to take care of, who maybe time might be the only thing that's getting in your way. So this video is basically going to be a step-by-step system of how to actually break through and stop making excuses and actually build something like this in the next couple of years, or like this. So before we dive in, my name is Yusuf, and I'm going to show you exactly how I went from 195 pounds bulky to 165 pounds shredded, stronger in some workouts, and I happened to go through a bodybuilding prep here where I placed second place in an NPC show. It's untested, and gained more confidence in under 170 days while working 3 jobs. So real quick here, I dropped only like 30 pounds here, and it made a huge difference in my physique. So in this first picture, obviously I was still kind of a little bit jacked, but I wouldn't call it anything that, like, I wasn't super confident in myself just because I still looked average. I didn't really stand out. This was 2 years into lifting. And yes, there was a ton of muscle built, but there was also, a decent amount of fat on me. And the reason I'm sharing this part of my journey is because this was the most dramatic change that has ever happened to my body. And it's where I learned so much of what I know now. In this process, I also learned in the process of like me building muscle up to this point, because let me show you. My starting point looked like this. I was just more so on the skinnier side with less muscle. And, after 2 years, a little over 2 years, I got to here just a very bulky physique. And yeah, that's when I got on this cut and I learned everything that I know. So I use the same method of simple habit shifts to help all my clients get shredded as well without sacrificing too much time. And forgot to mention, I also worked 3 jobs in this process too. I had 2 real jobs, and I also used to personal train, where I had a bunch of in-person clients. So my hours would range between like 60 to 80 hours per week while doing this bodybuilding prep. I was meal prepping, I was hitting the gym, doing actually way more cardio than I have ever assigned to any of my clients. So yeah, it was a pretty crazy grind. I had no life outside of my work, my family responsibilities. I still spent time with my family. But yeah, I just cut out everything else in this process. And I'm going to assume that you're probably not, you wouldn't have to take it as far as I did, because I'm actually serious about this. Because this is my job. This is who I am. I'm a bodybuilder and I'm a coach. So I take this to the next level. So enough about me. So who this program is for. If any of these resonate with you, you are the exact type of person that I love to help. You know what I'm saying? So if you're a busy guy with a job or business and you can't afford to live in the gym, but you still want a physique that looks like you actually lift and demands respect, this is for you. If you're generally sick of looking bulky or skinny fat or fat, and you want to be lean, filled out, and confident with your shirt off, this is for you. If you feel like you've tried everything, different splits, random diets, cardio phases, but you still don't have a system that actually fits your lifestyle, this is for you. So here's the thing. I actually have a lot of respect for people who try and continue to try, whether things work out or not. I have a high level of respect for those who actually have tried different things, but even if you haven't, it's all good. If you want something simple that you can follow consistently, because deep down you already know consistency is the real issue, this is for you. Now, who this is not for, if any of these 4 points resonate with you, get out. Click off of this video and never speak to me again. So if you're not willing to train at least 4 hours per week total, this is not for you. I feel like this is the bare minimum in order to actually get results within the time frame that we have. If you'd rather keep listening to the common myths of health and fitness and refuse to follow a proven structure that will keep you in shape for the rest of your life, this is not for you. So keep an open mind. I just don't like people who like to listen to the common myths of whatever you hear on social media, because reality is so much shit on social media is either one, bullshit, or two, things that aren't bullshit but they don't resonate with everybody. And like, in all honesty, most things that I see fitness wise, like if I were to just search up fitness and go on Instagram explore page and search up fitness, a lot of the things that I will see will not be things that resonate with me nor my clients. Things that just wouldn't work for our specific goals, because there's so many different goals that people fail to mention. So you look at a video and you think that that's the right thing to do. So enough about that. If your only focus is the end result and not the lifestyle habits you'll build along the way that will stick with you forever, this is not for you. I do not want anybody to be here that wants, quick results, because that's never the case. You got to be quicker to act and stick to a consistent process every single day that you're alive than being focused on the end result. If you don't genuinely believe that you can reach the ultimate version of yourself, this is not for you. If you can't believe that you're able to do something like this, which I think is the simplest form of self improvement, you're not going to actually act on it. So let's not neglect psychology. Psychology is very important. The truth about shredding fat that no one will tell you is you can absolutely, let me move this, you can absolutely build a physique you're proud of without sacrificing time from other responsibilities nor giving up your favorite foods, all while keeping your results forever. But most men fail to get results because they don't understand how to, one, eat enough to fuel muscle while still dropping fat, train with a plan that actually produces a visible change, or three, build habits that fit their real schedule so they don't rebound the second life gets busy. So, quick story time. So, these pictures right here represent a huge moment that I learned so much from in my fitness journey. This was in 2024 when I decided to go on a bulk where I just ate whatever fit the macros and didn't really pay attention to anything else. I just continued lifting without really tracking my weights, not progressive overloading. Wasn't paying attention as much to like the type of food that I was eating. It was just like whatever fits my macros app. Not to mention it was also a big calorie surplus. I was eating 3,500 calories per day and did not worry about anything else, did not really have a system built. And my measure for success was looking at the scale increasing. So I was trying to go on a bulk. And this is what set me up to be to become my fattest version. And this is I'm so glad this happened to me, because without me experiencing this, I wouldn't have learned anything about what it takes to lose fat. And because of this is how I was able to improve my system, to help guys who are fat, bulky, or skinny fat to actually lose that waste. Like here, even though I was holding on to a lot of muscle, I was covered by fat. And I used to tell myself and everybody here that my waist was naturally blocky and big. And I didn't know any better until I actually went on a bodybuilding prep and I actually shredded my waist. I got down to below 12-ish% body fat, which is pretty lean. So this was the turning point. I did not feel very confident when this was me in the beach of July 2024. I just did not feel comfortable. I would consider myself as a gym bro, but I didn't really feel like I had a physique that stood out. It's a physique that didn't really match the amount of effort that I've put into the gym, if that makes sense. And it's such a hurtful feeling, but it was reality. You know what I'm saying? I put on so much fat without building a significant amount of muscle. As you can see here, there was no definition at all in my arms. They look small relative to my body just because I was so puffed out. You know what I'm saying? But don't worry, I will never ever let that happen to you. And if you're watching this, you're already ahead because you're looking for a method and not just another motivational video. The biggest lies that you need to drop, you need to stop saying, I'm too busy or I don't have time. I did my transformation that I showed you guys previously while working 3 jobs. Busy doesn't stop progress. No system stops progress. And if you want to achieve your ultimate shape, in this video, I will show you exactly how to drop 25 to 50 pounds in 180 days or less. I think that's an acceptable range of how many pounds you should be losing in that specific time frame. How to build visible muscle while leaning out so you don't just get smaller, you actually look better. A lot of people make that mistake of thinking that they just need to lose weight and then they never get happy with their body because they end up losing weight, but they don't gain muscle in the process, so they just end up being skinny fat, which is another starting point that you just don't want to be in if you're putting in the effort anyways. And I'll also show you how to do it without giving up your favorite foods, how to do it without spending more than 4 hours a week in the gym. Um, if we need to have it that limited, 4 hours is really all it takes to be in the gym. Most of my clients, I feel like on average, would spend like 5 to 6 hours ish in the gym just because they can. But if you truly can, then 4 hours is like a good amount of time where you can see great results. And in case you don't really truly know me, here's a brief backstory about how I got in the position that I am in. So it all started when I was my fitness journey. It started since I was 16. I've been working towards building the most aesthetic physique possible. I competed in my bodybuilding debut at 19, where I placed second as a natural in an untested show. So these pictures right here was during my show when I was 19 years old. My current stats are, this is a recent picture of me. This was actually a couple months ago, not super recent, but it's a similar shape of where I'm at when I made this presentation. The current stats are 5'8". I'm 5'8", 190 pounds, lean, with a physique that most people assume took years of obsession or steroids to achieve, when in reality, I've been training seriously for just 4 years, completely natural in this picture. I do get a lot of accusations, for my physique, especially under different lightings and angles. I'm a bodybuilding style transformation coach. I've watched men waste years following traditional fitness methods like crash dieting, keto, carnivore, unnecessary macro cycling, etc., or any other bullshit. Meanwhile, I'm making a transformation pretty much every year. My local gym, EOS, I moved here in Las Vegas in like 2022, and in all honesty, there's a lot of people. There's way too many people that I know. That some of them are friends, some of them are random, some of them are people that I just see in the gym. I see way too many people that never changed their physique, that never changed the transformation. I've been going to that gym for 5 years at this point, and there's still some people that I know that have not changed one bit. And when I go to speak to them, they actually have goals to change their physique, to build muscle, lose fat. But like if we were to compare them with their current shape and when I first saw them 5 years ago, there's barely any difference. So that's like a problem that I really want to eliminate. I just have a lot of respect for people who actually put in the effort. I just feel like if you're putting the effort, you should be seeing results. There's no reason for you not to have a six pack after fucking 2 years of training. You know what I'm saying? So that led to me to develop a structured system built around your life, not one that demands you rebuild your life around it. This is huge. This is the whole point of what I do. The aesthetics blueprint is my system that I developed through trial and error, built through everything I've learned from my research and experience in fitness, biohacking, and personal development. Now I'm going to break down the exact system. These are just some of my clients. Now I'm going to break down the exact system that helped all of my clients get these types of results. In the following steps, I'll lay out the entire process A to Z of what I did for myself and my clients to accomplish those results. With the aesthetics blueprint, you too can lose 25 to 50 pounds, put on muscle, and maintain new healthy habits that will last forever in 180 days or less. Let's get to it. The aesthetics blueprint consists of two phases. The bigger phase that people spend the most time in when they're with me in the program is the shred phase, because most of the clients that I'm getting are guys who are overweight, who are who have a lot of fat to lose, right? So in the shred phase, the goal is to lean out by losing half a pound to 2 pounds weekly until satisfied with body fat percentage. And once we are satisfied with body fat percentage, we transition into the build phase, which is the phase where you're not really on a diet, but the goal is to build lean muscle by gaining, like, even if you're not gaining any pounds, the goal is to build muscle and gain 0 to 1 pounds weekly without unnecessary fat gain. Because I feel like if you gain anything more than 1 pound or 1 pound and a half, I feel like that's the very maximum you should be gaining on a bulk, unless you're a true beginner. It's just unnecessary and you'll gain fat like I did. In whatever phase that you are in, there are three pillars that you need to stay on top of. These are the three pillars of fitness: training, nutrition, and recovery. If any one of these you're slacking on, you will not get the results that you want. So, for the training part, this is the first pillar of fitness, which is the training. The training is going to consist of 4 days per week, 4 to 6 days, depending on the person. Each session is going to be 30 minutes to 60 minutes of focused training. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people spend more time than that if they're distracted or talking to friends, which is all cool if you have the time. But since we are busy men, we like to keep it no more than 60 minutes. Bodybuilding style execution with proper warming up, controlled reps, tension, and tracked progress through the platform. So this is just an example of a split that I like to use. Mine is actually like the other way around with day 2 and day 1, but day 1 will look like something, like chest, tris, day 2, back and biceps, day 3, legs, day 4, shoulders and arms. Every single day that you work out is going to consist of 3 to 6 exercises, 2 to 4 sets each. The rest time will be 2 to 3 minutes after each set. Now, over time, you'll get a good feel of how much time you should be spending between sets, because some workouts, especially the super heavy ones, like if you're squatting, if you're doing like leg press, it'll require like a huge rest period of up to like 5 minutes. And then, for smaller muscle groups, if you have a muscle group that just recovers pretty quickly, sometimes 1 minute 30 is fine. But a good rule of thumb is to keep it safe, rest between 2 to 3 minutes after every set or between sets. Your job isn't to just sweat and leave exhausted. A lot of people have this idea that when you go to the gym, you need to be, heavy breathing, sweating, and if that's not happening, you're not working hard enough. And that's not the case. It might be the case, some days, maybe every day. It depends on the person, but that's not the goal. The goal is to simply engage the muscles and fatigue them to trigger growth. You know what I'm saying? The whole goal is to give your body a reason to grow the muscles. That's the only goal that we have in the gym. It's not to test how much endurance we have or how strong we are. Actually, in a way, like, yeah, we do test how strong we are, because that's what gives your body a reason to grow muscle. But the goal is to just simply engage the muscles and give them a reason to grow as we add more weight and reps over time. Your job is to apply the right stimulus, as I said, with proper form, slow and controlled negatives. So on the way down, when let's say you're pressing, on the way down, you got to control the negatives. That's how you engage the muscle, keep the muscles engaged. A big rule that I like to use is, for every single workout, you have to maintain the tension the entirety of the reps. So if you're doing a bicep curl, right? A lot of people like to, they'll curl and they'll rest at the top, and then whenever they're ready, they'll decide to go down, or they'll rest at the bottom. For me, like, I would keep the tension the entire time. I'll keep it moving. Maybe I'll hold it at the top, but only if there's tension. I'm not just, resting right here. Exercises that actually drive growth. Now, when it comes to the cardio, because this is technically part of training, even though it's more so about calories. So cardio is very important in this phase. It depends on the person. For some people, if I feel like cardio isn't, necessary for you, you'd have to reach 10,000 steps daily. And over time, we do add cardio sessions eventually. It just really depends on where you're at, the type of person that you are, and the lifestyle. So normally, I'll just start off with, if they're already getting 10K steps, then we just start with cardio. If you're not, then work on getting 10,000 steps daily, and then if we feel the need, we will add 20 to 30 minute steady state cardio sessions. So steady state means you track your heart rate while you do the cardio and you try to keep it between 130 to 140. Cardio sessions need to be either fasted in the morning or post workout. Those are the best times where your body is more likely to use fat for energy. 30-minute walks beats one miserable 60-minute session that you're quitting. So this is why I try to keep this as easy as possible. Now, when it comes to nutrition, the second pillar of fitness, there are 6 things to stay on top of when it comes to nutrition. Number one, and in my opinion, I think it's the most important, especially if you're a beginner, is paying attention to your protein intake. General rule, a lot of people like to get into details with this, but it's 1 gram of protein per pound of desired body weight. This is to maintain muscle mass and help muscles recover. Calories are, I would say, just as important as your protein intake. You need to be 200 to 300 calories below your maintenance for phase 1. And if you're in phase 2, if you're on the bulking phase, calories do need to be either on maintenance or 200 to 300 above maintenance on a surplus. I try not to do anything over like 500 calories for deficit or surplus, because that will make you lose weight dramatically or gain weight dramatically, and we don't want that, because if you're losing weight way too fast, there's a high chance your body's going to lose muscle in the process, and vice versa. For if you're bulking and you're gaining too much weight, your body's going to gain fat. It's inevitable. So this is why we keep it closer to maintenance. It also depends. Like if I put you on a carb cycling diet, sometimes the rest day calories will be like a 500 deficit just because we cut out the carbs. But we also make up for it on the days where you do train, where I add a huge amount of carbs to your training. It really depends on the person and what I feel like doing. Controlled flexibility is very important. You don't need to get rid of your favorite meals. You could still have whatever the hell it is that you like. You can have your cookies, brownies, anything that you like, burgers. So what I like to do is have 80% of the meal plan be repeatable meals, and then I sometimes have something called flex meals. If I feel like, it's worth it for a specific client, I'll give them flex meals where they get to eat any meal of their choice that doesn't surpass a certain amount of calories. And yeah, it really depends on the person. I have some guys that are like, they're not super overweight. They just want to do like a similar thing to what I did. With those guys, I don't really do this. I just give them 1 cheat meal a week, and they have to follow a strict meal plan for the entirety of the week, except for that cheat meal. And even that cheat meal should not surpass a certain amount of calories. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're on a slight deficit the entire week and you go balls to the walls on the weekend and you're eating like a 3,000 calorie meal, it just defeats the purpose of all that hard work you've been doing following a strict meal plan the entire week. So sanity control, this is what the cheat meals or slash refeeds are for. We get 1 to 2 cheat meals weekly, depending on the type of person that you are and depending on your goal. Nutrient timing is simplified. Protein with every meal. Most carbs placed around training. Most fats away from training. This is the general rule for the entirety of... This is like the summary of nutrition. Protein with every meal to make sure you're getting 1 gram of protein per pound of desired body weight or something close to this. Carbs placed around training to fuel performance in the gym. Performance in the gym leads to more muscle growth. I'm talking good performance in the gym leads to good muscle growth, and fats away from training so they don't slow down your digestion and disturb the way your body uses the sugar, the fat. Not the fat, the carbs. And this is a tip that I really like to rely on Most coaches, for some reason, most people online like that talk about nutrition underestimate the power of fiber manipulation. We adjust fiber to control hunger and digestion, not randomly loading vegetables and hope for the best. That's not what we do. If a client reports to me that they're getting, way too hungry, then I increase their fiber intake of, and make sure to add a food that they actually like. If I feel like somebody's struggling to eat enough food, because I do get this all the time. A lot of my clients who are cutting weight, they're trying to lose weight, they feel like they're eating way too much. And for those guys, I kind of decrease their fiber intake and we go from there. That's how you manipulate your hunger. Now, on to the third pillar of recovery. Now, most people underestimate the power of this pillar of recovery. They think it doesn't matter as much as training and nutrition. I think it's it matters just as equal as training and nutrition. So, biggest thing with recovery is you have to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep minimum. Now, I feel like I worded that wrong. It should be anywhere between 7 to 9 hours. You should not be sleeping any like 10 plus hours. I feel like that will just drain you even more. So 7 to 9 hours is like the sweet spot. This helps with muscle retention, hormone support, hunger control, and not to mention, if you don't sleep well or if you don't sleep enough, that will raise your cortisol levels, and having chronically higher cortisol levels will get in the way of you trying to lose fat and gain muscle. So that's what cortisol does. It gets in the way of your results, even if your nutrition and training are perfect. Even if you're following everything to a T, if you're not sleeping enough, you will have trouble building muscle and you'll have trouble losing fat. Your body's gonna want to hold on to as much fat as it could. For some reason, I don't know the full science, but that's what cortisol does. So speaking of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, stress needs to be managed intentionally. Some things that could affect cortisol are caffeine timing, how you wind down, the evening wind down. You have to do something that relaxes you and not be, stressed by the end of your day. And controlled workload in terms of not just the gym, but also in your life. You need to kind of control the amount of workload that you get each day and every day, and kind of take everything, one step at a time without like stressing. Stress is a huge factor for results. Training volume matched to your life. You don't need to David Goggins this process. We're not trying to be the hardest man in the world, pause, but we are trying to lose fat and gain muscle, which is a way simpler goal than trying to be, the craziest motherfucker on the planet. The only times where you should be working hard is in the gym, obviously, in the sets that you have to do, and your overall lifestyle. People think of working hard as like doing shit that tires you out, but no, working hard is just being more responsible, managing your time way better. Time management is a huge part of this. To time your meals, time what time you go to the gym, time your juggle your other responsibilities. That's what I mean by hard work. So more isn't better, recoverable is better. We need to set up a system where you're able to recover without burning out. Schedule deloads when needed. We pull back before burnout hits. So obviously for everybody on a fitness journey, we are trying to increase the weight we're able to do over time when it comes to like lifting. Obviously there will come weeks where we do like deload weeks. We kind of schedule them depending on what you're going through. If you're recovering from an injury, or if your shoulder starts tweaking, those are like little reasons as to why we do deloads, because continually getting stronger on a weekly basis or monthly basis, you'll get to a point where you hit a wall. Either you meet with a slight tweak in your body, or you meet with like some sort of burnout, or maybe life gets in the way where we have to pull back and we schedule deload weeks or deload days. There's many ways that this could be done. Not every workout needs to be your best workout. The goal is to make this process sustainable. So especially for me personally, the way I use deloads, like when my left shoulder is tweaking, some periods of time, sometimes like my body just starts tweaking, I would still hit shoulders, just not hitting PRs. I'm not like using the idea of progressive overload in those workouts. I'll just try to get a pump, get the blood flow in my shoulders, and this will help aid my shoulders to recover. or if it's a day where I had genuinely so much shit to do and I'm actually fatigued, my body's cooked, I haven't eaten enough, but I still need to hit the gym, um, I would call the deload day, and that's a deload day. Now, those should not be too common, but you should utilize them depending on your life situation. Steps over cardio. The reason I added this in recovery, because it's obviously talking about steps, moving, and cardio, is because we don't want to use cardio if our lifestyle is way too active. So if you have a very active lifestyle, we try not to make you do more cardio because steps are just more sustainable. Like using steps as your way to, to increase your metabolism is way more sustainable than doing cardio. Yet we still do, 20 to 30 minutes of cardio, which isn't even that bad, and only like 3 or 4 times a week. So steps over cardio. This improves fat loss and recovery without frying you, unless you're plateaued. Joint and tissue management. We select exercise in a smart way, longevity over ego. Self-explanatory here. So this will give you a better idea of the timeline of what you could expect. Now, everybody's timeline is different. Me personally, it did not match this timeline. This is just an example of what you could expect. I feel like this would be more realistic for somebody who's more like on the skinnier fat. And if you're somebody who is like way overweight, then your timeline will be a bit longer than what this says. You'll probably like do 6 months on the shred phase or possibly more, until you are satisfied with how lean you are before you even hop on a muscle building phase. So this is just an example. Month 1 will always be the foundation phase where you may or may not be on a calorie deficit. This is the month where we build the foundation. We try to find your true maintenance calories. We establish a consistent gym schedule. We lock in protein target, and we build repeatable habits, and we install core habits without overwhelming. So the way I like to go about it is let's say you decide to start today. We start with one habit at a time to work on a weekly basis. With all my clients, and including myself, on a weekly basis, I have something called weekly priorities or weekly to-dos, where we try our best to stay on top of the entire program, but we have select few habits, like it could be between 1 to 3 habits that we don't quite have it locked in, and we focus on those habits and make sure we have those habits as a non-negotiable. We make sure we do those exact habits for that week, despite everything else. Even if I don't reach my targets for everything else, at least I did what I said I was going to do, and that's the weekly priority. So let's say you're a new client and you come into the program and you've never been to the gym before. Obviously, the first habit that we need to lock in is simply showing up to the gym, even if your workouts aren't 100%. If you've already been hitting the gym and you're not used to following something like a meal plan, then we try to have that as the priority on a weekly basis. We're like, okay, we need to get a 7 out of 7 day of following the meal plan for a specific week. That's how we build habits over time. And usually after the 1 month, most of my clients, and including myself when I did go on the prep, 1 month is a good amount of time to actually lock in on all the habits. Because even if you try your best, you're not going to be able to figure out the exact schedule and lifestyle that you have to have set up before you hop on an actual shredding phase and following a full-on program. So this is the month where we make the most mistakes, and we try to figure out how to go about the rest of the program. Month 2 would be the shredding phase, almost indefinitely. 200 to 300 calorie deficit, structured training with progressive overload, fiber and hunger control dialed in, performance tracked weekly. This is where we get started on the shred phase. And sometimes I have some clients that it took them 3 months of shredding, and then for the 3rd to 6th month they'll do a building phase. I'll show you guys after this the timeline of my client Shirok. He's one of my best clients. He has been at it for 3 years at this point. He hasn't been working with me all 3 years, obviously, but we did take a phase of 1 year where he had a similar timeline to this. Now, for the building phase, we'll do a small calorie surplus. The main focus of the build phase is strength progression which needs to be, prioritized. It's the priority. We try our best to have the waist stay as tight as possible. We do not want any fluff around the waist because we have worked so hard for months doing the shred phase and we have resetted the waist. We do not want to get a bigger waist in this process. So we'll try to stay as lean as possible here. Now, here's a realistic timeline of what to expect within 6 months. In that 6 month window, I was able to go from this guy to this guy. Pretty crazy difference. So it was November of 2024 was when I decided to, get with my coach, and I picked a show that was 6 months from this point because I thought 6 months would have been a realistic time frame for me to cut weight, and it wasn't like an absurdly long time to stay on prep. And it did feel like a pretty long time because think about it, that's like half a year of me staying consistent with a strict ass meal plan. And no, I'm not sticking to that meal plan as of right now. I'm eating similar things, but I'm way more flexible now with how I do things while still achieving my goals. So I got with a bodybuilding coach. So the process of going from this to this, which was, my peak, this is the leanest I've ever been. It was a very strict process. But I still had to work around my lifestyle and I had to sacrifice so many things. So you don't have to. None of my clients have to take it as serious as I do, and they're still able to get really great results because I'm assuming you're here not to hop on stage. You're here to just simply lose fat while still maintaining your life without it being a dreadful process that you really hate. Like the process that we go through for all my clients, speaking of them, they actually build the love and they start enjoying the process more than the results themselves. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a process that you can actually stick to and enjoy, and you get some weekly wins. But yeah, anyways, going into the timeline of what to expect. In the first month of getting with my coach, we took a maintenance phase, still lifting the same way I did, except this time we are tracking progressive overload. And the biggest habit that I needed to build in that first month, because admittedly, I've never followed a meal plan in my life. I had tracked macros. I have been through, strict lifestyle. I used to wrestle before. I had been through like a lot of activities that require discipline, but I've never ever followed a strict meal plan where I was eating the same thing every single day consistently, where I had to meal prep and not just eat whatever was available to me. So this process was pretty hard, but I managed to build that habit of making my own meals and eating the same thing every day from a meal plan. So this was the foundation phase where the main goal of just that month was to build the habits. And as you can tell, by the way, like in that first month, I had lost a clear amount of fat. So as soon as month 2 came was when we started to cut. So these two are the same picture. And within 6 months, this was like, I forgot how many weeks before my show. It wasn't like the day of. Yeah, the results just speak for themselves. Pay attention to how, like the waist difference between this size and this. The feathering in the quads was my favorite thing. It was definitely a process that I really, really needed. And then, I did my thing. I competed. Now, if I wanted to, I could have just maintained this physique until now, but I had to lose it because I have a bigger goal to, build more muscle and just have a bigger physique in the long run. So I had to, make some sacrifices and, lose a bit of definition in order for me to be able to build muscle. But I'm still maintaining my waist and I'm never losing myself like how I did here. So that will never happen again. And I do take mini cuts here and there depending on how my body is looking over time. So here's another realistic timeline of my guy Shirok. So as you can see in the first picture, he already has some muscle already built. He had already been working out for over a year at this point. And when he came to me, he was unsure if he even wanted to go on a cut because he had a goal. Like he wanted to, have bigger muscles and, have a bigger physique. He thought that if he were to go on a cut that he would risk losing muscle. And I told him, if you do it the right way, you could actually build muscle in the process of losing fat. And that's exactly what we did. We spent the first month in the foundation phase where I taught him how to track macros. I gave him the numbers that he needed to reach on a daily basis, whether he's training or on his off day. It was a carb cycling diet that's for maintenance because it was the first month. And the reason we went towards the macro tracking side than like a meal plan side was because he wanted more flexibility. He did not want to eat the same thing every single day. So I was like, all right, so here's what we can do. I could just teach you how to track macros, and you gotta follow it to the T and be consistent with it, and results will be guaranteed. Along with assigning him, the cardio sessions. Another thing that he needed to build as a habit was tracking the weights that he was lifting in order to progressively overload while doing this process. That's how you tell your body that you need to build muscle, even if we're cutting, because we are getting enough protein in, we are getting just enough fuel for your body to use that to build muscle. Within the third month, results speak for themselves. Again, the size of the waist, the striations in the chest and the shoulder between this and this within 3 months was just pretty crazy. After the 6th month, you can tell what he unlocked. He unlocked the six-pack abs, which he saw for the first time in his life. Growing up, he was always fat, and this was the moment where he started to see a visible six-pack. Like, imagine living for decades and you've never seen your six-pack, and then you decide to lock in for 6 months only, and boom, you have your dream physique. And after this, obviously, he never regretted going on a cut and, losing fat. There's a lot of people that stay here. They call themselves gym bros. They call themselves whatever. And they just never get to this point. They just measure their success by the scale. They're like, oh, I'm 180 pounds. I'm 200 pounds. I'm like, that doesn't matter because we have different heights. It's about how we look. It's not about the weight that we are. So you gotta put your ego to the side and be real with yourself. After the 6 months, we called it quits on the cut, and he decided to kind of do his own thing. He had his goal of building more muscle, but then he comes back to me 6 months later. He sends me this. I'm like, what the fuck did you do? And he ended up just doing a maintenance focused on muscle building, but then he decided to go on a mini cut. Look at that. I have no words to, on how to feel about it. It's just S tier. The aesthetics blueprint is designed to help you transform your body in 180 days without turning your life upside down. And the reason I say 180 days, despite showing, transformations that took way longer than 180 days, was because all it takes is one phase of, whether it's 6 months, whether it's a year, one phase of your life where you lock in on everything. It's like a learning phase where you learn about nutrition, how to work out properly for aesthetics for your specific goal. And after that, you will build and progress your own lifestyle. The goal isn't to just have me as your coach for the rest of your fucking life. That's not the goal. I mean, if you want that, that's cool. But, make your own system in order to reach your own goal, and keep your results forever and stay looking like how you want to look like forever and just have a way better quality of life. Because I'll tell you in 1 second, this will translate in pretty much everything else in your life. So the aesthetics blueprint also gives you structure without restriction, clarity without confusion, results without burnout. That's what it's all about. Now, the point that I'm trying to touch up on is as soon as if you've never been in shape your entire life, as soon as you do get in shape, the moment you do, you may not change as a person. You're still the same person. You might even feel like, you might see the progress, but you still feel like you're the same person. You don't think differently of yourself until other people notice it and you notice other people noticing it. And almost instantly, you will notice a difference in the level of respect that people have for you when they talk to you, whether it's your boss, your coworkers, your friends, family, significant other, doesn't matter who, your kids. People will treat you so much differently. And yes, I know this may sound fucked up or unfair, and I do agree. It is unfair, but it's human psychology. When we see somebody who is more in shape, it sends a signal to our brain that this person is trustworthy. They could protect me. They know how to go about life. It's a subconscious thing that we don't really think about, but it's what we do. When you see somebody in shape, when let's say you walk into a networking event or a job interview, the moment you walk into the room and you are in the best shape compared to everybody else, you have a body that really stands out. Without having to say anything, you stand out from the crowd and you're already ahead of everybody without having to prove it, without having to say anything, because your body just speaks for itself. And subconsciously, people will just have a way higher level of respect. As soon as I made my first initial transformation, not when I went on the bodybuilder prep, that too, that changed a lot. But I remember when I first got in shape, I put on the first 15 pounds of muscle. I noticed, and instant change. I was in high school at the time. I noticed an instant change in the way people spoke to me. I remember before I got in shape, when I was in conversation circles, the amount of times I would get talked over, like I'll be in the middle of speaking and then somebody would interrupt, and people would just listen to that person, give all their attention to that person. And I thought that that was normal. I thought, okay, that's how people are, they have bad listening skills. Even though I still noticed that some people just get better attention than others. And I had no idea that this is something that I was able to change. I thought it was just a skill issue, maybe in the way I speak or whatever. Um, but no, I got in shape and I speak the same way that I do right now. Not the most articulate. I am not a talented speaker, or I don't have a personality that really stands out. Maybe I do to some people. I don't know. Yeah, as soon as I got in shape, I noticed that sometimes I'll like say some irrelevant shit. I'll say something that's not even irrelevant, and people will give me their undivided attention. And I thought that was like the coolest thing ever, and it played a role in my self-esteem, how I view myself, how I carry myself everywhere else. It boosted my confidence in a really great way. Although it may sound unfair just because of the way you look, people treat you different, but that's just reality and you have to accept it. And this directly translated into my job situations as well. I used to work this job, not going to name where, but I used to work a job where, I only spent like 2 years there. But in the matter of those 2 years, I had surpassed many people, countless people who have been in that same exact position that I have been in the like when I first entered the place. They have way more experience than me. They might be more reliable. They were also on time. They were just as reliable as me, and I was always the first one to get picked when it comes time to like promotions. I was able to put myself in a better working position than them, and that led me to be able to like help my family out with paying bills. It changed my life. You can ask anybody who has been out of shape their entire lives, and as soon as they get in shape, they will tell you a similar story. Especially the people that don't know you very well, they'll just judge you based off of how you look, because how else are they supposed to judge you? The car you drive does not matter. The clothes you wear does not matter. It's something that you cannot buy, your physique. So not only did my results feel effortless, here are some of my clients who also got crazy results without much sacrifice. I don't want to say any sacrifice, because you do have to, at some point, especially if your life is busy, you would have to sacrifice things that are taking your time, that aren't serving the person that you are trying to become. What I'm saying is we're not sacrificing things that matter, whether it's family time, whether it's job, like work related things. We're not sacrificing any of those things, but we are going to sacrifice bad habits like drinking, partying, those things, hanging out with useless friends and doing nothing. So just some of my other clients that I do want to kind of quickly go over. This is my client Eric, who has been with me for 1 month, and he managed to pretty much obliterate his midsection. He pretty much lost all the excess fat. Not all of it. He still has a bit of love handles, and he's got long ways to go in order to get to that six-pack level. But yeah, this is just for 1 month. Pretty crazy in my opinion. Here's my client Caden, who was with me for 12 months and completely obliterated the body fat and built muscle in the process. This is Danny, one of the craziest transformations I've ever worked with. He's lost 95 pounds within 1 year. As a guy who works 80 hours per week. He's a business owner, so like imagine working 80 hours per week and still being able to achieve this level of transformation. And here's my client Luke, who actually skipped the first phase. He just went straight into a muscle building phase or bulking phase, and his body just went from average Joe to an absolute Dorito. Newbie gains are just crazy like that. So now that you understand exactly how this process works, I have an offer for you. If you're someone who's skinny fat, overweight, tired of being tired, unhappy with the man in the mirror, and you are ready to look good with your shirt off, finally break the pattern that's holding you back from becoming the best version of yourself, I will help you shred 25 pounds or more of just fat, not weight, build muscle in the process, and finally look and feel aesthetic in 180 days using the aesthetics blueprint, and how I will refund you if it doesn't work. Yes, I will refund you if you actually follow everything and it doesn't work, which is impossible, but yeah. So guys, if you truly want it, you would have already been in the best shape of your life by now, or you will be in the next 6 months. Now, I just gave you all the sauce. You have all the information, not just this video, but you even have all the AI tools, Google, you have all the information. So your issue is not info. What you need now is accountability. You need somebody there on your side every step of the way that will keep you accountable and hold you to the highest standard. If you don't have anybody in your life that will hold you to that high standard, somebody who actually understands what it takes to build the ultimate version of yourself, you will never get there no matter how hard you try on your own. And not to mention, everybody's journey when it comes to getting in the best shape of your life is going to be unique. Everybody's route is different. And even you yourself, you might take, there's many different routes that you're able to take. So that's what I'm here for. Like when it comes to my clients, no two clients of mine have the same exact program. Everybody has different times for how much they got to do their cardio, how many steps they get, what type of food they eat, what exact order of foods they eat. Because it all depends on one, your preference, your lifestyle, your other responsibilities. So I study the type of client that I have, and I basically pave the path for them to become the best version for themselves. I don't just give everybody the same cookie cutter program. You basically just get a set of instructions to follow every day based on your level. That way you're able to actually fulfill these set instructions that you have for the day without overwhelming you and without you having to sacrifice the important things in your life. If we haven't had a conversation already and you're willing to actually lock in and guarantee a good transformation in the next 180 days, if you're actually driven, you could fill out a form down below. It's pretty quick, should take like 5 to 10 minutes. And that will be submitted to me personally. I'll look through them. And if you're qualified, I will reach out to you to set a call to see if we are a good fit to work with each other. So I'm looking forward to working with you. Other than that, thank you for watching the video. I really hope you got some value out of this. And I hope they actually utilize this information in order to take your life to the absolute next level. Good luck.